yaws that would make it yaw in place, and now I suddenly understand.
K1FFK. And quickly, how does it do that?
See how quickly I can do it. Well, as you know, two diagonal props rotate one direction, the other two rotate the other way, so that balances out the torque on the body, which nulls out the yaw. So just let's say there's a number of 10. I don't care what the units of measurement are, but let's say 10 units is making it hover. They're all spinning at 10. RPM, I don't care what you call it, but let's just put a number on a 10. So if you go to 12, it's going to go up. If they all four go to 12, it's going to go up. If the back two go to, let's say 12, and the front two go to 9, it'll go forward, because the back end will get lifted up and lean forward, and so forth. The way it yaws is you take two of the motors, diagonal motors, and make them run at 11, and the other two make them run at 9. So two are a little faster than keeping it level, and two are a little bit slower. What that makes is the yaw not be balanced, and it'll spin in place. So it's the differential between diagonal pair. No. Let's see. Yeah, the differential between diagonal pairs. If it's not exactly zero, it will yaw one way or the other.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense. Unlike a real helicopter, of course, there's only one or two rotors, but yeah, without pivoting or anything, that's probably the only way they could do it is to vary the RPM of the blades.
Well, it's very simple to understand. To go up, you make them spin faster, all four the same, and down you make them spin slower than my hypothetical number of 10. So that's pretty obvious. And to make it go forward, back, left, or right, it's pretty obvious that the front two, the back two, the left two, or the right two spin a little slower than the opposite pair, and it'll go in that direction, because that one side will sag down and it will take off. Of course, you got to add a little to those 10s so that it doesn't come down as it's going forward, back, or sideways. But the yaw thing wasn't so obvious to me until I realized that the way it doesn't yaw is to have all four of them having no differential. Let's say the diagonals, no differential.
Roger, yeah. Boy, think of the circuitry involved just to make that happen.
I know, it's amazing. And then add on to it that it's taking in data from GPS, from the downward-facing sonar, from the downward-facing orientation camera, and evaluating all of that stuff to figure out where it's drifting to, and then applying corrections to those things we just discussed to keep it where it was. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And probably so many times per second, evaluating and changing, and the end results certainly speak for themselves.
I went up to 200 feet this time, half of my maximum elevation, and the sun was unfortunately low in the sky in the direction I was curious about, so the video's not so great when it's facing into the sun. But you can see that that direction, that hill behind the house, is the biggest blockage that I have here.
Yeah, is that the granite reflector?
Yeah, that's the granite reflector.
Yeah, I got a good view of everything there. Did you happen to? I don't know whether it was Kevin that sent the video. Did you happen to see the the A380 video?
Oh, the RC plane? I sent you that.
Wow, that. Now I actually found two of them, two different ones. The Singapore one was the one that was really good.
Yeah, I sent you the Singapore Airlines painting, but I did find another one, which I think was another Southeast Asia airline. I can't remember which one it was now, but I saw that too. But yeah, that thing was pretty big. I think they told you how much it weighed in kilograms. I think it was about 150 pounds that it weighed. I loved it when they were tanking it up with the aerosol cans. Wasn't that neat?
Geez, I'm trying to remember that part because I did watch more than one video. Those engines sound so realistic.
Yeah, they do. When he was doing the flybys, and then when he came and did the, what do you call it? It's not a touch and go because he never touched, but he flew down along the runway really low and went flying by. And So yeah, it sounded pretty neat, and he did the kind of demonstration flight that you often see at air shows with real airplanes. But he took off and he flew around up high a couple of times. Then he came down and did a low pass and went back up again. But anyway, watching him touch down and seeing that landing gear and all those wheels touching down, then he puts the nose down gently. The thing must have reverse thrust too, I presume. So it was amazing.
I don't think there's any reverse thrust. It does have brakes, and I think in one of the videos they mentioned pneumatic brakes, which I'm not familiar with in models.
Well, when they were tanking it up, it was at the beginning of the video, and he had four. They look like controller boxes, probably one for each engine. I'm not sure. But anyway, there were four black boxes on the ground wired to the side of the fuselage. Then they had these aerosol cans that were connected with a hose, and they were emptying whatever it was, fuel into the thing. And at one point, he was holding the can upside down to get the last few drops out of it or something. But and then they closed up the side of the fuselage, and then he started it up and then took off.
Yeah, I thought kerosene was mentioned at one time. This is K1YXP.
K2GAV. Yeah. Oh, I was on the air the other day talking to a guy about the quadcopter, and he started poo-pooing them. I brought it up because I looked at his QRZ page, and he had a really nice, large RC helicopter. And I said, oh, I see you're into that. Well, I just bought a quadcopter, and I immediately said, it's not an aviation toy. To me, it's a aerial photography device. Then I started talking about his copter, but then he spent a long time poo-pooing quadcopters until I kept repeating, I know it's not an aviation thing. I know it's not like flying yours. As I said in the beginning, it's an aerial photography tool.
Yeah, people, that's all I can say. It's very, they do have true RC helicopters, and the learning curve is pretty extensive, and they're difficult to fly, and I know that a lot of those, didn't have a long life because they are complex. But yeah, it's apples and oranges here, two different animals.
Yeah, a quadcopter is not really a drone, and it isn't a helicopter. And a lot of people call them both of those things. But this is obviously made to be a stable platform for aerial photography, especially since, besides all the aviation stuff that we just discussed about how it moves around and stays where it's supposed to be, the camera's hanging from this active motorized gimbal, so that if the body is wobbling in the wind and it's trying to keep itself in position, the camera doesn't jiggle all over the place. That's why it's so smooth, because it's hanging from an actively balanced gimbal.
Yeah, it's amazing. I see a place with these things in law enforcement or fish and game departments. I mean, just imagine. You don't have to be really experienced. The guy could just as you said, let go of the controls. It'll hover. But I mean, if you were looking for somebody or something, and it wasn't heavily wooded, or I mean, this is going to take off, I think.
I think that's already happening. Did I tell you about my friend who works for Travelers Insurance?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he's also the fire chief here in town, and I know him because of my Aries involvement with the town here. He's not a ham, but he's interested in it. And anyway, he was doing fundraising, Super Bowl. They have like a raffle and selling tickets the other day, a week ago. And so there's this fire engine parked out at the end of the driveway, and they were canvassing for donations. Anyway, he came in, knocked on the door, and said, I got a bunch of young folks who'd like to see ham radio. So I said, yeah, come on in. I happen to be on the air then. And we got talking, and then he looks over and sees the drone. I just did it, the quadcopter. And after I got done with the demo, he said, is that a Phantom 3? I said, yeah, it is. You know about quadcopters? He said, yeah, we use them at Travelers Insurance to K1FFK. K2GAV2, examine, for instance, somebody calls and says I have hail damage on my roof, rather than hiring a contractor to go up and inspect it for them. They'll just fly their Phantom 3 up overhead, hover, and take some video, and then bring it back to the office. So they're saving money that way. And I asked them, I said, that's a commercial use of it, so the FAA registration doesn't apply to you. He goes, oh yeah, we had to go through a lot of paperwork to get a commercial license to operate it for that, but they use them for doing inspections for insurance.
Oh, what a great idea, huh? I mean, you don't have to climb a ladder. You get instant feedback from it. There's gonna be a lot of uses, I think, that I haven't even thought of.
Yeah, one of the FAA requirements when you get licensed is that you promise not to fly it over emergency response operations. I got to pull out the thing on my wallet to see exactly what it says, but you're not supposed to go snooping around like during, let's say, a hostage situation or something like that. You're not supposed to go in there and mess around with it for that. But if there's a forest fire and you want to see how far away it is from your house, or there's a lot of uses, like you said. K2GAV.
K1YXP, yeah, absolutely. I was going to say something about, oh boy, it'll come back to me. CRS, about the quadcopter, another use. Oh well, like I say, it'll come to me.
Well, one thing my buddies want me to do is take a fine piece of magnet wire, tie it to the leg, fly it up about 400 feet, and make a 160-meter vertical.
Yeah, except it won't be too long a communication, right? Half an hour, is that what the batteries last?
Well, 25 minutes. Actually, let's do some math here. So quarter wave would be a vertical. Quarter wave at 160 would be 40 meters, right? Yeah. And that would be 120 feet. So it could easily do that job. It wouldn't even have to go up to 400, go up to 120 feet, and you got your vertical.
Yeah, really. I like the idea of the kite that, what was it, John was doing?
Yeah, that was interesting. By the way, I don't know if you've been working any of this interesting DX that's been on recently, but South Georgia Island is on now. VP8 Sierra Golf India, Victor Papa 8 Sierra Golf India. I worked them on 30 and on 12 CW so far, but you can look on Club Log and see who else has contacted them and see that they're in their logbook. K3MA John is a maniac. He's a wild man. He's got I don't know, almost all the different modes and bands confirmed with them.
Oh, good for him. That's I keep it simple. I didn't get on too much. I got on. I listened on 160. I didn't hear anything over the weekend, and then I was on 14. And I'll tell you, there's some mean-spirited people out there. These guys that. Obviously, one of the guys was older than I am, and it kind of frustrates me the way some people act on the air. It was a bad experience.
Well, whenever you have a large group of people, you're going to run into stuff like that, that's for sure, and I've had my share of it too. I think you probably remember my incident when I was working the pile up on, 14291, and I was there for about a half an hour. This net shows up and starts calling me an idiot, get off our frequency, this is our frequency, we meet here all the time.
Yeah, I remember that, and somebody else, I know that commented on it and said that you handled it well.
Yeah, after I moved, first of all, I ignored them for a while because I don't like to respond to people calling me an idiot. But then I recognized one of the guy's calls because I had talked to him before, and he more politely said to me, "We have a net on this frequency, and we need you to move," which is the wrong way to put it. It should be, we often have a net on this frequency, and if you wouldn't mind moving, it would help us enormously so people wouldn't have to find us. But you just let us know whatever you'd like to do. We'd appreciate any consideration. Something like that would be the way to say it. But he was saying it a little bit nicer. He goes, we meet here on this frequency, so you're going to need to move, but you're welcome to join us. I guess that's his version of warm and friendly. I wasn't interested in joining their net. I was interested in working the 30 or 40 people in Europe that were calling me. So I just decided to move anyway. And then when I moved, the next couple of foreigners said, "That was ridiculous. You didn't have to move. You handled it very well." And, so I got some kudos for that. But, yeah, there's a lot of jerks out there. K2GAV.
K1YXP. Yeah. I don't know. I think some of these guys are too old. They got their license when they were 15 years old, and this guy was obviously I don't know, beyond his time. When he said that you could join them, that was like 50%. I mean, this is our frequency. It is not your frequency, and I'll handle it depending on the situation. I mean, I don't mind moving, but if somebody insists that that's their frequency and I have to move, no, thank you. I'm not going to do it. But if they explain it and, and say, listen, I understand it is your frequency, but, we do have this group here, I would gladly move. But I can't say that I would do that 100% across the board.
I totally agree with you 100%. Yeah, there's like three levels of that. There's the very polite thing we've already gave examples of. And then there's the middle one that, that guy was, you got to get out of here, but you can talk to us if you want. And I'm thinking, I don't want to talk to you or your kind if that's the attitude you have. But then the nicest thing is what you just said, which is, I realize it's yours, but we have a large group, and if there's any way you could move, we sincerely appreciate it. That's the right way to put it.
Absolutely. But if they insist that it's their frequency and I have to move, I'm not moving. But hey, we'll wait for that to happen, and hopefully it won't. So I am now converted to operate on propane. In fact, I was out filling tanks when I just got home a short time ago.
Now, why did you do that? Because it's got to be more expensive.
I'm not so sure it's more expensive. That I've been doing some reading and some research. It cost me $12 to fill up a tank down here at my local lumber yard. I just filled 3, so it's 35. I don't know, something to change. With gasoline being $1.80 a gallon, it might be, but I don't know if the propane price fluctuates with the gasoline or not. But I think it's pretty much a wash, Ted. It's not determined yet, but it's not excessively slanted in one direction or the other.
So why did you do it then?
Well, it's easier to store propane. Number one, it will not go bad on you. In fact, I had a tank here that I probably had for 8 years that I just used. So the gasoline in the carburetor is not going to go bad. The carburetor is drained. And that's my reason.
What did it cost you, and what did you have to do?
The kit was $187, and there's a couple of different choices. You can convert it to just propane, and that means taking off the bowl of the carburetor and putting on the adapter. So what I did is I made the conversion to they call it tri-fuel. I won't be using natural gas, of course, but I can instantly go to gasoline by just flipping the gas valve back on. So this is a Honda engine. It's got a fuel shut-off. I shut it off. I drained the bowl on it. I ran the gas out of it, then I drained the rest. And what I had to do to make the conversion is take the air cleaner off the housing. The carburetor is on 2 studs, and slip this thing over. Take the gasket that's in there, it's about 1/8 of an inch thick, and replace it with this thing called a snorkel. It's a gasket with a gas fitting through it on a little 90-degree bend. Put everything back together, and then it goes to a regulator, which you can see in that picture, and you're ready to go.
Well, $187 would be 100 gallons of gas when gas is $1.87. So if you have like a 5-gallon gas tank on that, that would be 20 fill-ups of the generator. So that much gas equals the kit. So whatever the benefit is, it seems like the payback would be like 400 years.
I wasn't concerned about the payback. The other reason is that I went to Tractor Supply yesterday, my favorite store, as yours, and I got the kit to put 2 tanks together. So I am paying for the convenience, so I will gang 2 tanks together, and I can get, I don't know, maybe, I'm going to say 15 hours of runtime, depending on the load and everything and stuff like that, without having to go refuel it.
K1FFK.
K2GAV. Well, tongue-in-cheek, all I have to say is you're an idiot. Get off my frequency.
What's your call sign?
K1YXP.
Those guys that I mentioned the other day, by the way, they did not give their call signs out. And after they yelled at me, I just left the frequency. I didn't get into it with them or anything.
Oh, what was the gist of why they were yelling at you?
Well, they were really good signals. Nice, so I said I was going to ask them where they were located. I was kind of curious because they weren't giving call signs. contact, and this guy barked. No frequencies in use.
Oh, that's rude.
I know. It was the old guy. And I said, I know that. I didn't ask if it was his use. I could tell. I said, I know I laughed. I said, K1YXP clear.
It's like going up to two guys talking at a cocktail party, and you come up to them and say, excuse me, could you tell me where the men's room is? And the guy turns around and says, get away from us. We don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, there's all kinds. But back to the conversion. One thing I like about this is, like I said, it's so easy to go back to gasoline. So I think if I ever bought a new generator, which I really don't think that's going to happen for quite a while, I would buy the tri-fuel as opposed to just dedicated propane. I like the options of the gasoline, and easier storage, and if you run out of propane, take the tank off your gas bill.
No, okay, I'm not debating you, but I'm just asking, why is storing propane easier than storing gasoline? I store both here. I'm just wondering why.
Well, the propane won't go bad, for one thing. I mean, 10 years later, it's still going to be propane without any deterioration, as far as I know. Whereas the gasoline, you got to keep, I change it out every year, like this spring. I do have two 15-gallon containers, and then I'll dump it into my vehicles this spring and rotate it around, and just easier.
Okay, yeah, so life is better. You made that good point, but I thought you were talking about safety or something. They can both be dangerous. Of course, the thing about propane is you're an idiot if you're on my frequency and if you're storing it indoors.
Yeah, no, I'd never do that. You hear these stories. In fact, just recently in the news up here, somebody was running a generator in their garage. And, I don't know. You can't legislate common sense. But also, I can actually fuel this thing. I don't like shutting it down, Like, I had to run it for 50 hours a few years ago. And, going out at 2 a.m. to gas the thing and shutting it down. I don't like to gas it when it's running. It's just easier,
Yeah, and I bet you it burns cleaner, too, because when you burn propane, like I do here in my furnace, it is so extremely efficient and clean that it's only putting out water vapor and carbon dioxide.
Roger, there's no question about it burning cleaner. So, and I could not tell the difference if you walked up to it and I asked you, is it running on propane or gasoline? You couldn't tell the difference. And it's adjustable. So like adjusting the high-speed needle valve on a carburetor, there's an adjustment. So I backed it out until it started to run a little bit, too much fuel, running rough. Brought it in another half a turn, and it runs great. The only thing I notice, this Honda engine on gasoline starts on the second pull. I can go out there 6 months later, and the darn thing will start. And I started it this morning, and it took 6 cranks, which, it's okay. I can get it to start faster with my little carburetor cleaner trick. But that's the only difference. This is K1YXP.
K2GAV. Well, if I walked up to it and you asked me, is it running on propane or gasoline, I would take a clue from the white bottle sitting next to it that it's running on propane.
No, I would put the tank in the garage and you wouldn't see the hose coming out.
Well, you didn't specify that. Alrighty. Alrighty. So that's cool. It's neat to do something like that to have the flexibility. So if gasoline goes through the roof, then you can switch to propane. But probably if gasoline goes through the roof price-wise, so will propane, if not immediately, eventually. So I don't know. Well, luckily right now we have a very warm. By the way, it's 60 degrees down here. Got a very warm winter and low fuel prices, and I have a massive pile of firewood too. So we're not freezing this winter.
Yeah, really. So let me finish my propane story. So I noticed my tanks, they're getting old. You know that your first time around, your tank is good for 12 years, right?
I know about recertification in the initial 12 years. Yep.
So my tank's saying 04 on it. So I went down to the filling station down here, and the guy says these are out of date. I said, no, they're not. They're good for 12 years. He said, yeah, it's 04. I said, yeah, but the tank says 11.
Yeah, now I don't know how you go about recertification, but one thing you can do is just go to those Blue Rhino things and pick out a tank that's got a fresh date on it, and then when you throw your, return your tank, it's their problem.
Okay, the story continues. So I dropped off 3 tanks, and I had one tank from '93. It was recertified, but the recertification was only good for 5 years because I had the letter E on it. So when I dropped the tanks off, I went down the road to the Blue Rhino station, and the girl, comes out and she pulls the tank out. And it's got a 04 date. And I said, "Let me look at another tank. You don't mind?" No, no. I pull out a second tank. It was 04. I got a third tank. 613. I said, "I'll take this tank."
That'd be good to 2025.
Exactly, and then of course I will refill this. I don't do the exchange because it's a little more expensive. It was 1995, but new tanks are $30, so I figured it was worth it.
Have you ever had one recertified?
Never bothered. I exchange them out. Just take the old tank and get a newer one and go from there.
I'm wondering if they can be infinitely recertified 5 years at a time. As long as they pass, they're good for another 5 forever.
That's a good question. I don't know. Like I said, this one originally was built in '93 that I just got rid of, and then it was recertified. It had a date of '08, and that was only good for 5 years. So I don't know. It didn't even look too bad because I keep them under cover and everything outside with a tarp. But that's what I do. When they went to the OPD tanks, I didn't have any, so I never bought one. What I did was at the recycling station that in town here, they take propane tanks. They charge you for them. I think they charge you $10 to get rid of them. And lo and behold, inside the shed are some of the new OPD tanks. People move; they're not going to take them. So I said to the guy, "Look, I'll give you this tank. You got the same amount of metal or whatever it is they want, and I'll exchange it." And he let me take a tank. So I accumulated all the OPD style.
Well, I know what an OPD valve is, but I can't remember what OPD stands for.
Overflow protection device.
Right, and those are the ones, they used to fill the old kind, which was the internal threaded, reverse threaded, before they went to the outside threaded, non-reverse threaded, twist it with your hand thing. The other one used to be a 7/8" open end. But anyway, I think before the OPDs, they actually put 20 pounds in a 20-pound tank. Now they won't. They'll only put about 17 or 18 pounds in it.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, the float comes up and it shuts off the supply because, people were doing you a favor. They were filling the tanks too much and they had an issue. That's right. The new OPDs have that big external thread on the outside, but they also still have the internal thread because all of my connections for the conversion to propane I'm using the internal thread for the hoses.
Yeah, I knew that too. There's very little, Matt, that I don't know.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, well, so they got a float inside, that's fine. Why doesn't the float shut it off when there's 20 pounds in it, not 17?
Yeah, and along that, so I'm reading the sign out on the Blue Rhino cage out there in front of the Rite Aid pharmacy. 15 pounds. That's what I got. 15 pounds of propane.
K1FFK.
Yeah, exactly. The first time I bought those, it was 17, and it actually said it, and I weigh it when I get them home on a bathroom scale. And there were 17, but then they dropped down to 15. So you're getting 3/4 of what you used to get. I used to get a full 20 pounds for $6 back in the 70s.
Yeah, I know, but I was pleased with the price. I didn't think $12 to fill the tank was too bad.
Now it's 16 down here, so that's good.
Yeah, I got one more old tank. I do, I go for years without filling them. I use maybe 2 tanks on my grill a year. Got a grill on the back deck there, and then I go and fill them all at once. Sometimes they have a sale. I see that I think they were filling them for $10 last year on a special weekend sale or something. But I've got one or two. I don't know. What I'll do is when I go to the recycling center tomorrow, I'll see if there's a new one in the shed and just exchange them out.
Yeah, I got to check mine. I got 2 tanks here, and I just ran out on one of them for the gas grill. We actually do barbecuing in the winter, especially this winter. But anyway, I've got another tank sitting out there on the deck in the should go check the dates on them. I think they're fairly new still.
Yeah, I got about 7 tanks. I think. Of course, I've got some tanks up north of the cottage too. I'll have to check those dates. But yeah, we use the grill all winter. Only way to go.
I think somehow a steak tastes better in the winter.
In the middle of a snowstorm. I don't care what the weather is. Or what the temperature is. I cook on the grill.
One thing I finally perfected was rotisserie broiling a chicken with one of those grills. It took some experimentation to get it to the point where it would cook it in a reasonable amount of time thoroughly without catching on fire.
Yeah, there definitely is a technique. I know a lot of times I'll cook, something frozen, and there's a technique to cook it frozen. And what I do is I put 2 burners. There's a 4-burner stove, so I'll light up the first one and the third one. And what I've discovered is put the steak between the 2 burners with that burner either on very, very low or off. And the first thing you have to do is get it thawed. And once you get it thawed, then you can cook it. So it took me a long time to learn that technique. K1YXP.
And K2GAV. Well, what I figured out is this. Of course, you take the grills out and put the rotisserie in. I put a old cookie sheet wrapped in foil down on top of the flame deflectors for the fat to drip into. And then it's a matter of getting the temperature down. The burners should not be up very high, pretty low. And then I have a little block of wood that I prop the cover open just a little bit to get some airflow through it. And then with that, once you get that set just right, it'll cook real nice and slow with the fat dripping off of it. And I've got to tell you, there's nothing that tastes better than a rotisserie grilled chicken.
Sounds like you've got it perfected.
Then we got this mixed seasoning. I forget what it's called, but it's for poultry. So I rub the body down with it, push the seasonings into the skin as much as I can, and truss it up with some string and whatever, so it's nice and tight on the spit. And again, I'm telling you, when I take the thing off of there, the meat's falling off the bone and it's juicy.
Yeah, so you're right about the taste. I don't have the rotisserie on mine, so I guess I have to buy my rotisserie chicken from Hannaford's.
Or you can come down here for some.
There you go.
Well, I'm going to see if I can shake down South Georgia Island on 17 meters. I see they're spotted there, and play around with it. I don't know if you played with clublog.net at all, but it's an interesting additional resource for us on the internet. Are you familiar with it?
No, I haven't used it. I'm just kind of keeping it simple. But if you say they're on 17, maybe I'll go give a listen.
Yeah, they're spotted on 18130 right now, and that is phone mode, upper sideband. So I don't have them on phone yet, so I think I'll see if I can hear them there. Anyway, you should get into Club Log because that MA40 is arriving any day now, right?
Yeah. So what direction do I point my antenna for this one?
From here, it's 131. Doesn't sound right, though, because it was 150 something before. Well, somewhere around 130, 140, 150, but I could have sworn. Why is it saying 131 now? I thought it said 150 something before. Anyway, 131 is what it says from here.
All right, I'll go give a listen. See you at Triple One. This is K1YXP.